So we'll get started with today's session by paying our obeisances to His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is the founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON, we call it as. As you all know, through the messages we have been, communicating that this is a Bhagavad Gita online course, and we are going to cover this in 9 sessions, just to give an overall gist and feel. With the first session today, starting, which is titled as Secret of Happiness. Followed by this, we will have further 8 sessions, which are key to success, tips to overcome sufferings, art of work, importance of guide in our life, how to have a balanced lifestyle, are we really in control? And the supreme controller, who's that? And in the end, the ultimate perfection. So beyond these sessions, we will then set up the second level, further advanced level, which will be more, chapter-wise, detailed, shloka by shloka, classes or sessions on the Bhagavad Gita overall. So this will be what we will be expecting to cover in next following, 8 weeks at the same time every Saturday. So let's get started then with the first session, which is Secrets of Happiness. Just to quickly give you an agenda, how the flow would go. So the first topic we will be, covering is what are each one of us, looking for in our life, yeah, and what are the needs of human beings? How is spirituality linked to happiness, right? So importance of the spirituality for happiness. Then, because this is a Bhagavad Gita course, how is this, helpful to us to attain happiness? The role of Bhagavad Gita to get this. Then, a quick background on Bhagavad Gita, as what situation was it spoken, why was it spoken, and then towards the end of the session, we'll share a practical tip of the day. So this practical tip will be shared towards the end of each of these 9 sessions, and this is basically how we can apply that in our day-to-day life, because quite a lot of them think that Bhagavad Gita was spoken 5,000 plus years ago. So how is it relevant? It was relevant at that time point. So during the course, you will see how this application is even practically possible even for today's, in our day-to-day life as well. So we will see how this can be applied in our day-to-day activities. So before we start with the specifics of the session, I would just like to share a video clip on happiness by His Holiness Radhanath Swami, and which will, I'll just, let me know if you all can see.
One thing we all have in common is this search for happiness. In the Vedas, there's a beautiful verse, Ananda Mayo Bhyashat. It's a universal principle. Whether we're little ants or cockroaches or animals or any variety of human beings, everyone is looking for pleasure. There's an analogy in the Himalayas I learned long ago when I lived there of a deer that has a particular gland that creates a fragrance called musk. That deer is so attracted by the fragrance, wants to find it, and spends his whole life crossing rivers, going over mountains, going into thorny bushes, trying to find that fragrance, not knowing that it's actually within himself. In the same way, we're all looking for happiness. We're trying to find it through wealth, through power, for sexual pleasures, through acquisition of property and money, through entertainment. But somehow or other, that happiness, it has a beginning, it has an end, and it has so many limitations and vulnerabilities. True happiness, all the great sages and rishis from all the spiritual traditions throughout the world have taught us that the happiness is within ourselves, where sits the Atma, or the living force. And things could give some degree of pleasure for some time to the mind and senses, but things cannot give fulfillment to the heart. It's only to love and to be loved that we can actually experience pleasure within ourselves. And the origin of that love, from the spiritual perspective, is the true journey within.
So what exactly, we'll now start with the first agenda item. So like we heard from His Holiness Radhanath Swami, that, this so-called happiness, it just doesn't come from any, mechanism, right? And we all keep searching it everywhere, but rather it comes from something else, right? Which is within. So what are each of us looking for, in life? We are so busy in doing so many things, during our day-to-day life that, just what is the outcome of that? Why do we do it? Just to get the tinge, the feel of the pleasure or happiness. So what are we all, busy doing in our day-to-day lives? Yeah. So we take care of our family, we go to work, if any of you are working, or we are at home, taking care of the our day-to-day course. Some are even busy in managing the business, the children, what are they busy with most of the times? Most of the day is to go to school. We also try different types of entertainments, right? To really think that, that will give me some kind of happiness. And some even end up, doing some unethical activities. Yeah. Some of us, we also see that we worship, God. And what is, in the above all activities, what is the ultimate goal here? We are looking is to get happiness, right? Even sometimes, we see that most of the times when we worship God, why? So that He grants us something with what we wish for. And once we get that granted, ultimately we feel happy and contented. So that's the overall, So what are we looking for is happiness. And through what medium? Through maybe, we think that, let me buy this home, having different targets at different time points of our life. There are different people with different definition of happiness. And we see that we ourselves, at different time points of our life, we have our definition of happiness changes. At some times we feel that, let me buy this home, it will make me happy. Then, maybe car, a bike, accessories, clothing, so and the list goes on, right? So it's like, let's really get into, what we heard from the video clip of, Radhanath Swami as well. Like, let's have a little more objective analysis as, what do we need really to feel happy? Yeah. So and we see that, if our needs are fulfilled, then we get happy, right? So generally, that's the thought process, that we have different needs in our life, and once they get fulfilled, okay, that gives us the happiness. But we do try various things, right? And these needs of human beings, we are classifying into three broad categories. The first one is the physical need, second is psychological need, and third is the emotional need, right? So we see, from the example that, some of the physical needs we can, think of are, for example, a house, a car, right? So, and psychological needs are the one which makes us happy, mentally, which makes our mind and intelligence happy, right? So these can be categorized like maybe a promotion in our day-to-day job, or, let me get this fame, name and fame, let me become famous. So these impact us and make us happy psychologically, right? And then comes the emotional need. Um, and how do we get this? Through, what satisfies our heart. Emotional needs are that satisfies our heart. So it can be, relationships, family, friends. So we as human beings, we can broadly classify these day-to-day needs into these three categories. And like I said, since childhood, if we see that, say we are a child, for example, um, until certain age, the happiness definition for child is just being on mother's lap. In due course, they start looking at the toys around, and their happiness then changes. Let me have the toy. Let me play with it. That's the definition then. And then in due course, as they grow, they see people. They want to go out and play, and that makes them happy. As they grow further, they will ask parents with so many needs, like let me get a bike. That will make me happy. And once they have the bike, they would like to have someone to accompany them, right? A car or a bike. Let me get married. Let me have kids, and the list goes on. So our definition of happiness, really changes, right? So are we really missing something here? Like we said, we'll further do an objective analysis, because we see that there are people, who have most of these needs: the physical needs, psychological, and emotional. But still, they are frustrated, they feel lonely, they are anxious, and there's a depression. And eventually these all, they end up, with all these characteristics leading into, even suicide. Um, so we can cite many examples, right, where what to talk about people who have most of these needs fulfilled. We also have seen, people who have all of these needs fulfilled, famous personalities, who still land up, committing suicide because they feel all these characteristics, like lonely, anxious, heavy depression. And these famous personalities, we would say, they had everything which we would ask for, which a common man would ask for. But still, they had all families, friends, fans, everybody and whatnot. But still, there was something missing, which led them to eventually, commit such a committing suicide. So even we see in our life that things that we crave badly, like maybe promotions, in our corporate life. But once we achieve it, this stays temporary, right? It's that happiness which we really crave for it for long. Once we get, we really feel happy for a short period. So so there is something definitely which calls for here is something further to these material things, which we need to get happiness, right? So let's take this as an example. Yeah. So we have here a picture where I think you all can guess that the child is being measured for fever here, yeah, temperature. So the doctor, what is fever, right? It is a kind of superficial symptom that something is going on in your body. There is something wrong, right? And then, the doctor further does, more investigations and further root cause analysis to understand what exactly is the cause for that fever. Similarly, we all, need to analyze, when we have, all these comforts above, all the needs fulfilled. Still, what is the root cause that the happiness which we get stays temporary? Yeah. And we also, have come across, I'm sure, some of you must have come across, some people who don't have the top education, filthy richness, but still, you find them so contented in their life and so happy. So let's try to understand, what exactly is the root cause for our temporary happiness with an analogy. So we see a fish here, yeah. So say we take a fish out of water, Yeah. And we try to feed the fish, with all the delicacies, like maybe rasgullas, really yum rasgullas, samosas, gulab jamun, you know, we'll try to get the fish, really all the comforts, right? Really a nice, place to be. But still, we'll see that this fish is not, fish is not happy or cannot survive because it's missing the most basic thing in its life, the basic necessity. And what is that? The fish will only be happy if it will be given the most basic thing to survive, which is, the water, right? So similarly, we will only be happy if our basic need as human being is fulfilled, which is the spiritual need. Yeah. And like, in Radhanath Swami's lecture, we heard, we can correlate that with, just an example that, say we come across situations in life where practically, say a grandpa is searching for his glasses, yeah, and he asks his grandson to help him to search, glasses, newspaper, something, and the grandson, tries to search the whole house along with the grandpa. He's searching in different setup. The grandpa is also searching, and towards the end, when the grandson comes and sees, meets the grandpa, and the grandpa asks that, "Do you find the glasses?" And the child laughs badly and says, "Oh, you made me search the glasses everywhere, whereas it is just sitting on top of your head." So this is our story as well, that we kind of keep searching for, those glasses called as happiness, everywhere outside in these material things, like maybe people, circumstances, things. But at the end, that actual happiness lies within, like we heard in the video as well. So further, I think let's just have, these kind of jotted down in a way that can really, sit, with an example in our head. So what do we see here? So we're trying to say here, what is the source of our ultimate happiness? So we see here a zero. Say I add another zero. What is the value I get out of it? It's zero, right? So no matter how many zeros I add, yeah, the end value is, zero. And it will, and similarly, we have education, wealth, beauty, strength, fame, power, influence, designation, whatnot, all, these material things, that, all these zeros together also will not satisfy your heart, right? Unless and until you put a one in front of those zeros. And once you add that one, each zero will start giving you an exponentially higher value, right? So what is that one? It's spirituality for us, right? So, and this is going to give us the ultimate happiness. Now, well, let's correlate this with our, some examples, we might have come across, some famous personalities, right? Who had a touch of spirituality in their, day-to-day life. Let's say Bill Gates and Mother Teresa, they are the most famous ones which come into the mind. So let's see this example, that how these people, even with a touch of spirituality, it has given them, a kind of satisfaction in life, and also adding meaning to their life. So these people, they still seem to be better off, and because they were, they are engaged in social welfare, philanthropic, overall, or charitable activities, right? And that performing these social welfare, it gave them satisfaction, right? And meaning to their life. And so what we learn here is their satisfaction, this kind of service to people is a very basic aspect of spiritual life. Yeah. So, and we could see, them being so contented, pleasure and happy, because why? That, we can see from those examples that this happiness, can also be attained by just practicing the basic aspects of life. Which are those? Through this example, like selfless service and helping others, being free from pride, and feeling compassion, right? Now, what comes to my mind, when I see this is, if such a basic aspect of serving others and feeling compassion can give such satisfaction and pleasure, then just imagine, how much, happy, what is the level of happiness a spiritually mature person gets, because these are just the basic aspects of spiritual life. Yeah. Now, it is like, when we see the ocean superficially, we can see the water surface, right? And however, when you deep dive, then you'll start finding, like, the treasure, like, different kingdom of life there, rocks, jewels, whatnot. So similarly, these aspects by such great personalities are just like the surface of ocean. It is just a very basic aspect. Whereas, so we can imagine that if we deep dive into spiritual aspects, how much more, how much level of satisfaction or happiness we can get, and this is also defined in our Vedic culture. So what does this really call for us? This really calls for a spiritual need, for us to understand the spiritual need in our day-to-day life. And this is, I would just like to share in relation to this some divine words from the founder Acharya of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada, that every one of us is searching after happiness, but we do not know what real happiness is. We see so much advertised about happiness, but practically speaking, we see so few happy people. This is because so few people know that the platform of real happiness is beyond the temporary things. It is this real happiness that is described in Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna to Arjuna. So, and we have just gone through so far, what are those temporary things, right? All the zeros which we saw so far. So further, I think, so what we have overall, just to, summarize this. So what's the source of ultimate happiness? It's not a big home, car, accessories, or clothing, or people, circumstances. It's, it's our spiritual needs. So we have a very nice verse here which says that you can understand how rich you are by counting how many things you have which money cannot buy. So it's the real wealth, which is Krishna, which can give us that happiness. Yeah. So just imagine, you can be a millionaire or a billionaire, but if you're always, to achieve different targets in life, we are always stressed out. We are fearful whether we'll hit that or not. We are really anxious, and we also might result into being envy for others, right? So what's, at the end, to achieve that target, we ourselves undergo all these and we are not happy, right? And if we are not happy, how can we make the people around us happy? Because if we are under stress, we'll see that, increasing within the people we live in, right? So if we are not happy, we cannot make others happy, our family happy, and then community and overall humanity at large, right? So the only thing which can give us happiness is, to give and receive love, right? So love is an inherent nature for all of us. And unfortunately, we all know for sure that love cannot be bought by money, right? So now, again, trying to give as many examples as we can, so that you can correlate it. What we can see here in the picture. We see a shadow, right? Now, this shadow is, we all know that shadow is not a reality, right? But if there is a shadow, that at least indicates definitely there is a reality of which the shadow is of. So this shadow here is nothing but the material positions we have. So just by the material positions, if we get that temporary happiness, then beyond this temporary happiness, the reality, if we get that, then, you can imagine how much of actual happiness there might be in the spiritual world, yeah, to the material world. So spirituality, why is it important? Is because it gives us, it is meant to give us actually that realization of that love, yeah, of that peace and of that happiness. So like I said, happiness derived from the material positions is nothing but like that shadow. And the reality, what you see, is that's the real happiness, which is there in spirituality. Now, our agenda covered as how spirituality is linked to happiness. Then we had how Bhagavad Gita is gonna, help us to attain that happiness. Now, this slide we are trying to, definitely highlight, how Bhagavad Gita helps us to attain that happiness, that peace, that ananda, which we mentioned. So while we, Bhagavad Gita basically helps us to transform ourselves. Yeah. So it brings us a kind of change in our consciousness, which makes us, to approach things in much different than what we do from a material aspect. So with Bhagavad Gita, it helps us to transform our arrogance into humility, greed into generosity, revenge into forgiveness, indifferences into compassion, hatred into love, darkness into light, and struggle into peace and happiness. So the overall goal of this Gita course, is to understand the divine teachings of this Bhagavad Gita, which can help us, to have a positive, enthusiastic, forbearing divine consciousness. Yeah, and not to have these qualities not only during our, when things are going right, but also even in how can we be composed, even in the most difficult and trying phase of our life. Yeah. So so we can also see, Bhagavad Gita is not something, which is, we see it being acknowledged by famous personalities like Gandhiji, even currently a live example like Modi ji, as how, they give the importance as whenever they come across any problem in life, difficulty, they always go back to Bhagavad Gita. So that really is a, strong example as how it can eventually help us, to get that happiness, to really to have these characteristics with our consciousness as well. So in subsequent 9 sessions, we will be touching different aspects of and the importance of Bhagavad Gita. So I request you all to please attend, all the 9 to get an overall picture as how this great, treasure adds value to our day-to-day life. Now, I think the last but one topic of the agenda was the background of Bhagavad Gita. I'm sure most of you know this, but just for those who, who might not have that level of understanding, at the same time, maybe a brush up for the ones who know. So, we will start with, we know that Maharaj Shantanu married Gangaji, and they got a son, Bhishma, and Shantanu Maharaj second wife was Satyavati, and she married with the condition that her son would have the throne. She begot 2 sons, Chitrangad and Vichitraveer. Unfortunately, Chitrangad lost his life in his early days, and Vichitraveer got married to Ambika and Ambalika, and from and then unfortunately, due to his heavy intoxication habit, he also lost his life. So then Satyavati, along third son, which was Vedavyas, he had the power, and through him, Ambika and Ambalika got the successors, which is the sons. So Ambika got Dhritarashtra, and Ambalika Pandu Maharaj. Dhritarashtra was blind by birth, and hence because of this, Pandu Maharaj was throned as and while having he got married, Pandu Maharaj got married to Kunti Devi and Madhuri. And during he used to go often to forest, yeah, all the kings at that age for hunting, etc. Right. So while hunting, unfortunately, he killed a sage, and the sage cursed him that he would immediately lose his life if he attempts to have a progeny with Kunti Maharani and Madri. So in parallel, Kunti Maharani had the benediction from Durvasa Muni that she was given a mantra through which she could beget sons. And she utilized that mantra, and through that mantra, she got Yudhishthira from Yama, Arjuna from Indra, and Bhima from Vayudev. And she gave the same mantra to Madri, who could get, Nakula and Sahadev through Ashwin Kumars. So after this, there was an untimely death of, Pandu Maharaj, and then Kunti Maharani had to return, to Hastinapur. Now, we all know, how Duryodhana was so cruel, right? So after the death of Pandu Maharaj, Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, they kind of, had series of plots, to kill Pandavas, even though because they knew, and Dhritarashtra, he was just, we say that, he was just not blind, materially, but he was blind for his love for his son, right? So, and even though Yudhishthira, by his age and by his qualities, he was eligible to be the next king, Dhritarashtra still wanted his his son Duryodhana to be the king. And we see that, in how they caused different kind of, Duryodhana was so cruel that he had committed, he tried to kill Pandavas so many times. And as per our scriptures, which is Manu Samhita, there are 6 kind of aggressors, which are stated there. And a person who commits, even one of that, it is mentioned in our Vedas that he should be killed at once. And, and the person who kills such an aggressor will not incur any sin. And what are those 6 key aggressors? One is poisoning somebody, setting fire, house on fire, attacking with weapons, plundering somebody's riches, occupying land, and eyeing on somebody's wife. So Duryodhana was so cruel that he had kind of committed all the 6, sinful activities, all the 6 kind of heavy aggressors. And now, after this, we know that how through the dice, game, the Pandavas had to go for exile to forest for 13 years, of which 12 years were to the forest and 1 year in incognito. And even after that, Lord Krishna came as Shantidut, representing from, he came to Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra with a peace mission, right? That, please, now Pandavas are done with their exile, so please give them their share. And Duryodhana did not agree to even give, that. And then Lord Krishna tried his best to, avoid the war and to have a, peaceful settlement. He, at the end, came up saying that, okay, at least give 5 villages to Pandavas, yeah, and they will be happy with that. But Duryodhana came back really harsh, saying that he will not even give them as much as land with the pierce of even a needle, tip of the needle. So now, because of the adharma, and now the war was just inevitable, right? So it had to happen to establish, the right. This is the first shloka, of Bhagavad Gita. And I'll just recite this. So Dhritarashtra uvacha dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamakaha pandavashaiva kim akurvata Sanjaya. So Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjay, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? Now, here we see, Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana, the Kaurava side, we all know that they were really strong, right? They had 11 Akshauhini Sena with them. And not only that, versus to 7 for Pandavas. Not only that, but they also had the most experienced, skilled, strong warriors, like Bhishma Pitama and Dronacharya. Still, we can see Dhritarashtra being worried and doubtful here, while he's asking Sanjaya of their victory. And we can see here also that how he addresses it as my sons. So he's clearly demarcating his sons with his nephews. Whereas we are talking, this Mahabharata happened at the point when, they were all of them were considered as one family. So there was no demarcation like it is now, in Kali Yuga. So he also highlights the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra. Why? Because Kurukshetra was Dharma Kshetra, and Dhritarashtra knew that. He knew that his sons were on, the adharma side, right? And Kurukshetra, because it was a Dharma Kshetra, it will always have the inclination towards the Dharma side, which was the Pandavas. So it's like this is a very good example of that. Even after Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, they had all the luxuries with them, yeah, but still they were not satisfied and happy. And we would see they were always anxious and worried. Whereas Pandavas, they faced several challenges, yeah, but still they were happy, they were positive. Why? Because they were connected to Krishna, right? So one may have everything, but if he is on the side of adharma, then he's surely to be defeated. Yeah. So after this, we see in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita that Arjuna falls into a complete dilemma. And what exactly, we also learn through Bhagavad Gita is Krishna is so merciful that he desired to, deliver this message of Gita to the universe, and he did it through Arjuna. So he actually put Arjuna under illusion so that this Gita can be spoken. So we see that Arjuna falls into depression when he sees his, family members, friends on the opposite side, to have the war with. Yeah. So and please remember, right? We know that Arjuna is not an ordinary person. Yeah, and he's a great hero. He was super capable, and we could see it in various time points in during Mahabharata, that how exceptional qualities he had. Right now, if such a great hero falls under depression, then we can imagine how we can, right? So and Krishna said this Gita. It's not we have the mindset that it is fully philosophical, not applicable, but it's really a motivational talk which Krishna gives, such motivation which makes eventually Arjuna get up and fight and win the war as well. So let's try to imbibe this in our day-to-day life, so that when we come across the same situation, we utilize Bhagavad Gita in our daily life to get that motivation and to get going. Yeah? So now I will just hand it over from here to share the last part of the agenda, which is the practical tip of the day, to Dr. Sumit.
Thank you very much. So I hope you all understood the basic thing, basic framework which Nikita Mataji has laid down, in a sense that what we understand as happiness, or what we experience as happiness, is very fragile. It's very superficial. It's very shallow in nature. No happiness derived from material things of this world can give us long-lasting peace and happiness. We have seen the example of famous personalities, like they had everything in their life which we cannot even dream of, and some of them end up taking their lives, and many others they get addicted with drugs. What for? Because they are shallow, they are hollow from inside. It's just superficial fame and name what they have, but within themselves they feel lonely, they feel isolated, they don't feel supported. And what to talk about us? We are also trying to imitate. We are trying to imitate personalities, famous personalities. We are trying to imitate West. We are trying to throw our culture behind and do everything possible to become happy. And why is Bhagavad Gita so important for us to understand from where can we get real happiness? And how can we be successful? How should we live our life? How should we utilize this life? That is where Bhagavad Gita is. That is the wisdom we get from Bhagavad Gita. And intelligent personalities across cultures, across different age group, across different point of time in duration, they have acknowledged the importance of Bhagavad Gita. People like Mahatma Gandhi, people like Albert Einstein, people like Newton, right? They have all utilized Bhagavad Gita in a way that they achieve real peace, real pleasure in their life. And we will see from few verses from these scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and also our Shruti scriptures like Vedas, Upanishads, that how and where can we get this happiness. So we move on to the next slide, and we like to share a verse from Bhagavad Gita. This verse is from the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And just so that how do we name these things? So we will give a reference. Where are we pulling this verse from? So you see down there written Bhagavad Gita, and 3.10 means this is from 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. There are total 18 chapters in Bhagavad Gita and 700 verses. And this particular verse is from 3rd chapter and verse number is 10th. So 10th verse from the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And what does Shri Krishna says in this verse is very important for all of us, and it is very relevant to this topic. Here, Krishna is talking about a yajna, and with the help of which we can get happiness. And not only happiness, we can be free from cycle of birth and death. So let's recite this verse. Saha yagyaha prajaha sishva purovacha prajapatihi anena prashavidveshvam esha vo ista kamadhu. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generation of men and demigods, along with the sacrifice for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation." Right? So here, Prajapati means the one who has created this universe. And when someone creates something, they create for a reason, right? A house is constructed. Scientists, they come up with different mobile phones, different laptops and computers, and so many things are being created. They are created for a reason, for a purpose. Similarly, this universe was created for a purpose. And the purpose is that we can achieve ultimate happiness. So what we are looking from these material things is not what this universe was meant for. This universe was created so that the human beings can perform yajna, perform sacrifice. Because it's only through that sacrifice that we can be happy. And not only can we be happy, but also we will achieve liberation. So this is very important for us to understand that, sometimes we don't understand basic things, that how by performing yajna can we be happy. For example, there is a doctor, right? And a patient goes to a doctor. The patient is having a wound in the forearm. And doctor says, okay, that's fine. You take this medicine. He gives an antibiotic and anti-inflammatory. And you take these drugs, oral medicines, and you will be fine. This wound will heal. And this patient, with a surprise on his face and with a question, he asks the doctor, I have a wound in my forearm. How can this tablet which I take in my mouth cure this wound? Right? Sensible question. If there's a wound in a forearm, the doctor should be giving something to apply on the wound, right? And this smart person, this smart patient says, how can this oral medication cure? Because he does not understand the science, right? The medical science. But the doctor says, have faith on me. Just try this. I am a doctor, have faith on me. And once you take the medication, your wound will be cured, right? Don't think that applying something on them will help you. It's something more than that. Similarly are these yajna. They are different sacrifices. But for this Kali Yuga, there is a specific sacrifice. And if we perform that sacrifice, we will be happy. And let's see what that sacrifice is. We'll move on to the next slide. So this verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam. This verse is from the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd chapter, and verse number is 52. Okay. Krate yadhyayato vishnu tretayam yajato makhe dvapare paricharyayam kalo tadhari kirtanat. Whatever result was obtained in Satyuga by meditating on Vishnu, in Treta Yuga by performing different fire sacrifices, in Dwapar Yuga by serving the Lord's lotus feet, can be obtained in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha, simply by taking the name of Lord Hari. Kalo tadhari kirtanat. Right? Krate yadhyayato Vishnu tretayam yajato makhe dwapare paricharyayam kalo tadhari kirtanat. So this is the sacrifice. This is the yajna for Kali Yuga. Right? While we may be seeing people performing different sacrifices also, like they meditate the way people used to meditate in Satyuga. They do fire sacrifice the way people used to do in Treta Yuga. And people worship the Lord, deities in temple. They do worship, right? But the most important thing, the most important medication for Kali Yuga is chanting the names of Lord Hari. This is the Kali Yuga Dharma. This is what we have to perform. This is the yajna we have to perform in order to be happy, as we saw in the previous verse of Bhagavad Gita. Okay? Even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, in 9th chapter, verse number 14, 16, that Satatam Kirtayantoma, that you have to, sing my glories. You have to chant my names. Then again in 10th chapter, 25th verse, Krishna says that of all the sacrifices, chanting the names of Lord Hari is the most important yajna. So that is where we have to understand that, and we should have little faith. We have to start with little faith. Once we saw that example of the patient. If patient has that faith on the doctor and starts taking the medication, the patient for himself will see that yes, how that medication is helping him, right? Similarly, we have to have little faith on the words of Krishna, on what is written in the Vedas, right? And specifically that how this Hare Krishna Mahamantra is going to help us in Kali Yuga is also highlighted in the Kali Santarana Upanishad, which we will see in the subsequent slide. Here it is said, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare iti shodashakam namanam kali kalmasha nashinam nataha paratarupaya sarva vedeshu drishyate. What does that mean? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. These 16 names composed of 32 syllables. Hari, they are 2 syllables. Krishna, Rama, right? In word, there's 2 syllables. So 16 words and 32 syllables. These are the only means to counteract the evil effects of Kali Yuga. Kali Kalmasha Nashnam. So these 16 words and 32 syllables are the only means to counteract the evil effects of Kali Yuga. In all the Vedas, Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate, in all the Vedas it is seen that to cross the ocean of descents, there is no alternative. Nata parantaropaya. Nataha parantaropaya. There is no alternative than to chant the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we, within the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, we chant this Maha Mantra every day. Like I'll show you what do we do as a yajna for this Kali Yuga. Like we all have a chanting beads, right? And we on in this chanting beads there will be 108 beads, right? You see, there are 108, and on each of them we will chant the full mantra: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, right? And so when we do this, there will be one round, 108 times. It will be one mala we do, and of these, like we do 16 of these malas. All of you can start with one round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. You can start chanting, and this is what we saw from scriptures from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Kal Santarana Upanishad. Across the scriptures, it is said that chanting the names of Lord Hari is the only means by which we can be happy, by which we can attain the love for Krishna, by which we can achieve liberation, right? So that is very important for us to understand, for us to achieve lasting peace and happiness, right? So I think so. With this, we have reached towards the end of the session. We move on to the next slide. So we will post the quiz of this session. So after every session, we will post a quiz, and that quiz we will it will be on Google form. It will be we'll make the quiz on Google form, the link of which we will post in the WhatsApp. So all of you are requested to please attempt that quiz, because it will help you, right? It will really help you. At the end of this course, after we are done with all the 9 sessions, if you participate, almost all the sessions and attempt the quiz, we'll also give certificates to all the participants, right? The basic aim is to help you people understand that how we can be happy, how we can be successful, how we can overcome our day-to-day anxieties. Some people end up being in depression, right? There are so many issues. Arjun, through Arjun, Krishna is trying to give this wisdom to all of us. Okay, so move on to the next slide. I think so. We'll now open the floor for questions. If you have any question, I don't see any question on the chat box. But if you have, you can unmute your line, or you can drop your question on the chat box. Or if you have any comments, any suggestions, yeah.
Namaste, Guruji. This is Vamsi.
Right.
I just have one suggestion. Don't make it another certificate course. Because we cannot equate, the happiness and the value we are going to get with the certificate. It's just
undoubtedly. Certificate is just to encourage you. It is really to encourage you to participate and attempt the quiz, which is going to help you, right?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Vamshiji. And there's one request, I understand that all of you are new, and we have a culture in India to call, our spiritual masters as guru. Uh, 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 Within ISKCON, we follow a pattern, a strict, we have our own SOPs. You can call us, my spiritual name is Shri Gaur Das. So you can call me Shri Gaur Prabhu, or you can call me Dr. Sumit, but please don't call us as guru, right? Okay, I see one question from Amit ji. I'm still not sure about the spirituality need of life. Can you define it in short? Right. Yes, we don't understand it because for now it is very theoretical. If I tell you, subsequent sessions will help you to understand that what is spirituality. But in short, the basic thing is that this body keeps on changing. We were small, now we have grown, and we'll also get old, right? But we remain the same. Every 7 years, all the cells of the body are changing, but we still remain the same. Krishna starts his instructions in the Bhagavad Gita by saying that we are not this body. We are soul. We are spirit soul. And because this body is made up of something material, and we as soul are spiritual. Again, the same example, as the fish cannot survive without the water, this spirit soul cannot survive without spirituality. We have to start with little faith on our scriptures, which start to end talks about spirituality. We also have to have little faith on people, who are living spiritual lives. And you see, I can tell you, like, I'm a hardcore scientist, a medical doctor, and I came across spirituality when I was in my medical school. I was in my 3rd year. Hardcore scientist, hardcore science student. I would not believe anything if you don't prove me. And let me give you how I was convinced by that. Yeah, these Vedas make sense. They are not some fictional things, right? In Srimad Bhagavatam, which is one of our most important Puranas, it is mentioned that how within a womb of a mother, an embryo develops day after day, week after month, and month after month. And if you compare that detail, which is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, with an Cunningham book of anatomy, it will be same. Now, 5,000 years back, when Srimad Bhagavatam was written, there was no instrument to find out how embryo develops within a womb. But it is written there in Bhagavatam. Again, the distance from earth to sun is very categorically written in our Vedas. How far is sun from the Vedas? It's written in our Vedas. We understand from Vedas, which are apurushiya, they are divine, that what is the need. It is, Vedas are basically user manual. How if you buy anything in your life, you get instructions of use. Even if you take a medicine, right, you will get instruction of use, how you should be taking that medicine. Similarly, this body, how we should be using this body is written in the Vedas, right? So, and in subsequent sessions, you will understand, how it is so important, and how spirituality will not only make you happy and successful, it will make you a better person. It will really, if you practice spirituality, it will undoubtedly take away all your anxiety, even in the midst of all the problems you may be in. Right? So I have many other questions. So I'll read. Our friend Nanjaraji is thanking us, and okay, there are few people who have everything in material world and still at peace with themselves. How do one create a balance? There are few people who have everything in material world and still at peace with themselves, right? How do one create Deepika ji, if you can please unmute yourself and just ask, what are you saying?
So, what we are saying is, like we talked about needs which are physical driven and ones which are not, right? So I'm trying to understand how to one create a balance between, we all have to work, right? We still have to work, we still have to get everything. And how to create a balance between spiritual and business.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying. So a very important question for all of us, that, while we are spirit soul, we are also body, right? So we have to have a spiritual culture, but also we have to take care of this body, which is material, right? So we have to carry both the things together, right? Because we have to feed this body, we have to take care of this body, at the same time take care of the spiritual things. So and that is the message of Bhagavad Gita. Arjun, he wanted to renounce everything and go to the forest. Entire Bhagavad Gita is spoken for this very purpose, that you should work. You cannot renounce anything, but you should work with an understanding that you are a soul. So, and that those things will unfold. Like, for example, Harshad Prabhuji introduced Nikita Mataji and myself, right? And he said that I am an MD, I'm an executive director in a company, and I practice spirituality for last so many years. So we are carrying forward these two things, but different from some of our colleagues in corporate world or in medical practice. We see that we can differentiate very easily, that we are always almost at peace. It's not that we don't have problems in life, we don't have challenges in life, but we see hand of Krishna, we see hand of, and we see them through the eyes of Bhagavad Gita. And then we are not as much agitated as you will see otherwise, right? And we will understand that, there is a reason behind it. So yes, it's important that we balance our life. And this is what this course is going to actually tell us, that when there is a session known as balanced lifestyle, right? It will tell you that how we should balance the two. Okay. And then we have a question from Shrikar ji. This is Shrikar sir. Dhritarashtra comes in Mahabharata and Dashrath comes in Ramayana, right? Sir? Yes, you're right. Dhritarashtra is father of Duryodhana and all the Kauravas. All the.
Yes, I'm younger than you. You should not be calling me.
Pardon, because I'm not able to get you. What did you say?
Sir, I'm younger than you. I'm way younger than you. I'm 11 years.
Nikita ji, did you understand what is the comment?
I think he's trying to say he's 11 years old.
Okay. Who?
Shrikar, I think.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. So basically, yeah, you are right and very good. Like, you are 11 years, just 11 years old, and I tell you, I go in school and colleges to talk about this, and many people, they don't know who Dashrath is and who Dhritarashtra is. So I'm so happy that you know it, right? You have been brought up in a good Vedic culture. This is very important, for parents to understand and then help their children. So, I really thank your parents who have brought you up in such a nice way.
Sumit ji, one question I want to ask.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam?
Oh, nice question, Nishanti. And many people get confused between the two. See, Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, they are two scriptures. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is primarily what we will talk about. And this Srimad Bhagavad Gita is what Krishna spoke to Arjuna on battlefield of Kurukshetra. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is a part of Mahabharata, Bhishma Parva. Okay, and this has 700 verses, primarily spoken by Krishna to Arjuna. It is a conversation between the two. Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Gita means song. Bhagavad means a song by Krishna, who is Bhagavan. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam is a very elaborate scripture. It is known as Srimad Bhagavat Puran. It is one of the it is the most important Puranas, right? It is known as Bhagavad Puran, and it is all about different pastimes of Krishna and his devotees. It's basically, what we call as a lesson learned presentation. It's all about different pastimes, experiences, elaborate pastimes of Krishna, right? Which has 18,000 verses, as against 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita, right? It is divided, Srimad Bhagavatam is divided into 12 cantos and 18,000 verses. So they are two totally different verses, although both of them are related to Krishna.
Okay. Yeah.
And thanks for asking, Ishan. Okay, next question I take from Jyoti ji. Beginning of the new year, starting this program, really feel happy to listen and appreciate. Okay, thanks to you for attending. Kavya ji is also thanking. Okay, so I just want to check if there is, okay, Hari Krishna ji, you have any question?
Yeah.
Please go.
Basji, like you said about meditation and all, right?
Right.
Yeah, meditation, does this have any impact on the hormonals or something like that?
Yeah, see those
Hormones
right.
change will are related to your psychological system, right?
Yes.
Your anxiety or happiness or whatever it may be.
Right.
Depression.
Right. Very, very good question indeed.
You relate spirituality with this like how can we go with the spirituality by applying spirituality in the life to overcome these hormonal levels or whatever, which results in the feelings and all.
Right, right. Okay. So if I understand, the question is, does meditation has any impact on hormones, which basically is going to help us overcome anxiety, depression, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. So request, like we will take question one by one. So yeah, so see the chanting, if you see, there was a scientist in Japan, okay, and he Japanese are, very scientific in their approach, and he, being a Japanese and that too a scientist in Japan, he was like, and he did an experiment on the effect of different kind of sounds on water. He did an experiment that how different kind of sound vibration have impact on water. And why did he do that experiment? Because our body primarily is made up of water. So how different kind of sounds impact us as a person? Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll share a glimpse of that, right? A video of that and an article about it. So what he did, like he played rock music, he played, different kind of musics, different kind of songs. And then, he also played some Vedic mantras,
Okay.
right? And
Yeah.
while he played, rock music and other songs, it was all haphazardly arranged, the water crystals. But when Vedic mantras were sung, it was a very nice configuration.
Okay.
From that experiment, he showed that how this chanting, how this mantra meditation, mantra meditation. Now, the other thing is, what does mantra means? Mantra means someone which can help control our mind. Mana. Mantra. It's to control. It's to, help control our mind. Why mind? Because mind is the most fickle thing. In a second, it's sitting here, and another second, it will be in UK. Another second, it will be in US. It can go to even Mars and Moon and come back, right? So how can we control this? And Krishna and Arjuna acknowledge this fact in chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita. right? How to control this mantra? Mantra is to control the mind. By chanting, you see that when you chant the name of Lord Hari, you will be able to control your mind, right? And it does, if for example, you can try for yourself. And Prabhupada used to say that very often when people used to ask, right? Because I can tell you how sweet a rasgulla is and how delicious it is, but you will not realize the taste of it unless you eat it, right?
Yes.
So Prabhupada used to say to people that why don't you do an experiment for yourself? You chant Pepsi Cola, Pepsi Cola, Pepsi Cola, Pepsi Cola for half an hour, if you can, for half an hour. And then try chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Chant this for half an hour and you see the difference for yourself. I tell you, this is my own experience, right? That the chanting gives you everything what you need, not only for spirituality, but also for material well-being. Because if you are in control of your mind, you can do the same work in 1 hour, which others will do it in 4 hours. Because you will be focused.
Concentration.
Right. So, yes, it does. So I will share that article with all of you in the WhatsApp group. I'll take on the next question, which has been asked by Prabhuji. What is dharma? Right. Now, a very good question indeed, because people say, oh, we understand what dharma is. Oh, dharma is about I am Hindu and he's Muslim and he's Christian. These are different dharmas. So why is, Prabhuji asking this question? This looks like a, very, very silly question. But no, it's a very important question. Because dharma is not something very superficial. Dharma is something which is integral part of the soul. And something which is integral to soul cannot be changed. Right? For example, you cannot take the saltiness from the salt. Right? The natural position, you cannot take it away. What is the natural position of water? It's liquidity. You cannot take that away from it, right? Similarly, you cannot take away religion, dharma from the soul. And what is that? What is dharma? That dharma is that Jivere Sarup Hoye Nitya Krishna Das. The dharma is that we are always in connection with, the soul is always in connection with super soul. Atma is always in connection with Paramatma. Jeev is always in connection with Ishvara. In how are we connected? In love, in service. The nature of a soul is to love others and to be loved, is what His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj highlighted, right? That is the dharma of the soul. Because we are soul, we are transcendental, and the super soul, Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, He is also transcendental. To love Him, to service Him is our dharma. These Christianity and Islam and Hinduism, these are all superficial names. What Vedas talk about is Sanatan Dharma, eternal dharma. As a soul, we are eternal. We were never born, we'll never die. So is dharma. Dharma is also Sanatan. It is eternal. It was never created. The word Hindu, where from it has come? There is no word as Hindu in our scriptures. That this word Hindu was given to us by Mohammedans. You know why? Because the people who were living across the Sindh river, they would not be able to pronounce Sindh. They will pronounce as Hind. And people who are living towards other side of the Sindh river are Hindu. That is from where we got the name Hindu, Hinduism. Otherwise, in our scriptures, it is Sanatan Dharma. Right? And okay, so next question is, if we did not get the things but continue chanting, how we will motivate ourselves? If we did not get the things. So, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Ananya yaschintayanto mam ye jana paripasate tesham nitya abhuktayam yogashema vahamayam. That people who are engaged in my devotional service, for them, I personally carry what they lack and I personally protect what they have. So this is the assurance given by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Now another story I will tell you. There was a hunter, who used to half kill the animals, and he will enjoy them, dying out of pain. His enjoyment was not just to kill and eat animals, but his enjoyment was to see them suffering badly before they finally and ultimately die. Right? And then Narad Muni came. Narad Muni saw, I have seen many hunters who just kill the animals, but this hunter is a totally different one. He's half killing them and he's enjoying in the suffering of the animal. And he came and he said that, do you understand how much sin you are occurring, not just by killing, but making them suffer? And he said, what should I do? If I don't kill them, how will I feed my family? And then Narad Muni asked him, do you think that your family members are going to be happy and will be willing to share the sins what you are incurring? He said, yes, undoubtedly, they will be happy to share the sins. So Narad Muni told him that why don't you go and ask them, to your family members, to your parents, to your wife, to your children, if they will be sharing your sins. And then he went there and he asked, and what did they say? They said, it is your responsibility to feed us, but it is not our responsibility to incur the sins which you are incurring. Why should we share? You should earn the living. If you are doing sinful activities, it is your responsibility to incur the sin. We will not bear. And then this poor person came to Narad Muni. And Narad Muni, what did he say? He said that I recommend you stop doing what you're doing. Please note that this is not the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. What I'm telling you is that how much faith we should have on Krishna, how much faith we should have basic faith on, sadhus and sages and our scriptures. That basic faith, if we have, that will help us. Because the teaching of Bhagavad Gita is not to give up things, but to do things in a right consciousness. We will not, we are chanting, at the same time we are working. We want to work in the right consciousness, is what Bhagavad Gita teaches. Right? The example of Narad Muni and this hunter is to help us understand that we should not do sinful activities. We should not do work with which we incur sins. So Narad Muni told him that you should stop doing this. Then the hunter asked, how will I feed my family if I stop doing this? He said, you stop doing this and you start meditation. Right? Don't kill anyone. And that hunter, he obeyed the words of Narad Muni. He started meditation and he became so compassionate towards living entities that he would not even kill a small ant. He would not even kill a small ant. He would walk carefully that he would not kill an ant. And after some time, when people of his village saw that how he has transformed from being a ruthless hunter to being such a nice devotee, and then seeing the transformation, they came and gave charity to this person. And he got enough charity that he would easily feed his family. And when Narad Muni came, he saw and he was so happy looking at it. So the only thing is, we have to have faith on Krishna, that if we leave aside sinful activities, Krishna is definitely going to help us, right? And the teachings of Bhagavad Gita is not to leave anything. We have to live with the same family. We have to do the same job. What we have to do is to do things with the right consciousness. That is the only difference. Okay. Okay, I'll take another question. Jyoti ji, first I want to check if I was able to answer your question. Okay, you absolutely right. Thanks. So I'll move on to thank you for coming up with this program. We are really in need of this. Okay, it's our pleasure. It's our real pleasure to help you people, because it ultimately helps us, right? The teacher learns the most, so we are undoubtedly going to be, receiving the most benefit, So I don't see any more question on the chat. So I just want to check if you have any other question before we end the session. Okay. So before we end this session, I will request you to please, try to spend some time. Maybe start with 5 minutes to start chanting the Hare Krishna month. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare. And I tell you that the subsequent 8 sessions, along with this session, is really going to give you a vision in something which you have never been exposed to. And also you will see that how our Vedas, and specifically Bhagavad Gita, is very practical. And it is, it's not only that it was of use in Dwapar Yuga, but it is of as much use in Kali Yuga at this point of time. Okay. Thank you for attending. Thank all of you. Hare Krishna.